As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. The box is heavier than he expected. Not physically, but mentally. Beige cardboard, a rainbow logo, a price tag that feels more like a challenge than a number. He's been standing here longer than he planned to. Long enough to notice the hum of the fluorescent lights, long enough to feel the salesperson circle, pause, and then give him some more space. He doesn't actually need a computer. 9 days ago, he didn't even want one. But 9 days ago, during the Super Bowl, he saw something that just will not leave his head. Super Bowl advertising is the most expensive moment of the entire year. Everybody knows that. Even if he didn't know the exact number, he knew it was probably absurd. The kind of money only the biggest, safest companies spend. And Apple was not supposed to be one of those companies. The commercial didn't explain anything. There were no specs, no smiling families, no charts, just a gray world of identical people marching in time, staring at a giant screen. Then a woman runs, a hammer swings, and the screen explodes. A promise flashes. This computer will be different. The commercial aired once and then it was gone, but people talked about it anyway. At work, at dinner, standing in line at the grocery store. Not because it explained what the Macintosh computer did, but because it broke every rule of what a computer ad was supposed to be, especially on the most expensive stage in television. Now he's standing in front of that actual machine. A keyboard, a mouse, a price that could cover a month's worth of rent. He thinks about IBM. He thinks about conformity. He thinks about the fact that Apple spent Super Bowl money to say almost nothing at all. This doesn't feel like a technical decision anymore. It feels personal. And standing in this store in early February, he's realizing something pretty uncomfortable. The ad didn't just buy attention, it bought space inside his head. But was that commercial just clever, or was it doing something deeper? How did one Super Bowl ad change how people thought about buying computers? And standing in this store on February 2nd, 1984, was Apple already learning that advertising could be strategy, not just promotion? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Every date on the calendar has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, February 2nd, that takes us to 1984, when Apple started to confirm that advertising could be a strategy. In the early 1980s, buying a computer wasn't aspirational. It was practical, intimidating, and expensive. Most machines were sold the same way, through charts or specifications or talking about speed or memory or compatibility. The ads assumed you already knew why you needed a computer, and if you didn't, that really wasn't the advertiser's problem. In like a lot of areas, the industry leader was IBM, and its messaging reflected that position. Safe, corporate, authoritative. You bought an IBM because it wouldn't get you fired. That mindset didn't just shape IBM's ads, it shaped their entire category. Apple didn't fit comfortably inside that world. Internally, the Macintosh team believed they were building something fundamentally different. A computer that felt human, approachable, and even playful. But belief alone does not move markets. Apple had to explain why this machine mattered without inviting a comparison that it was likely to lose. traditional advertising wouldn't get them there. A spec sheet would only reinforce IBM's advantage. Feature comparisons favored the incumbents. Apple needed to change the frame before anyone compared anything. That meant treating advertising not as an explanation, but as positioning. And on top of that, it was a risk layered on top of another risk. The Macintosh itself was still unproven. The production costs were high, and the decision to spend Super Bowl money on a message that didn't even show the product, that kind of bordered on reckless. But Apple understood something critical. People don't buy technology in a vacuum. They buy it inside stories about who they are, what they fear, and where they belong. The question was whether anyone else would feel that too. The commercial didn't argue. It implied. By placing its message inside a dystopian world of sameness and control, Apple reframed the entire category without naming competitors or listing features. IBM came the idea of conformity. Apple became the promise of individuality. And that mattered more than speed or storage. The ad ran once during the 1984 Super Bowl, the most expensive and visible advertising moment in American television. That placement alone sent a signal. Apple was not behaving like a niche player. It was declaring that it belonged on the biggest stage. And then the commercial disappeared. There was no follow-up campaign, no explanation, no clarification, just silence and conversation. People replayed the ad in their heads. They debated what it meant. They wondered whether the Macintosh could possibly live up to the story it had just told. That uncertainty wasn't a flaw, it was the point. By the time potential buyers reached a store, the decision was already emotional. The machine in front of them was no longer just hardware, it was a symbol. Buying it felt like choosing sides in a story that Apple had already written. This was the moment the company learned something subtle but very powerful. Advertising could shape how people felt long before they evaluated the product.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
The Macintosh didn't immediately dominate the market. Sales were uneven. Apple would stumble more than once in the years that followed. But something lasting had changed. Apple had discovered that marketing was not downstream from strategy. It was strategy. From that point forward, advertising became one of Apple's most durable competitive weapons. Campaigns would focus less on what products did and more on what they meant, how they made people feel. In an industry built on electronics and engineering, that approach was almost unheard of. Competitors would chase features. Apple would chase identity. And that lesson spread far beyond computers. Technology companies began to understand that differentiation didn't start in engineering alone. It started in narrative, and how customers explained their own choices to themselves. That realization didn't arrive in a boardroom or a quarterly report. It arrived quietly through behavior, through people standing in stores, hesitating, and then making a decision. By February 2nd, 1984, Apple could already see that its Super Bowl gamble had done more than generate buzz. It had changed how people thought about buying a computer, proving that advertising could function as a competitive strategy, not just promotion. I'm Ron Schrucks, and this is Business History, the podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. Want to actually understand business better without the fluff or the buzzwords or the MBA language? Start by visiting us at businessdailypodcast.com.
New products to launch? New people to develop? New goals to crush? Workday Go is designed for small and mid-sized businesses. By bringing HR and finance together on one AI platform, you'll have everything you need to think big, go big, and grow big. And activation is fast. It takes just 30 to 60 business days to get you up and running. Simplify your SMB on an AI platform you'll never outgrow. Workday Go.